Alright, I got 2 videos to film tonight, and I don't want to spend too long on these intros because I already do that enough, so let's not even waste time, let's jump in. Welcome back to I Want to Talk About, the series where I take a topic, I sit on camera, and I blabber about it. And you know, if there's a big gaming showcase, I'd like to talk about it, so as you can tell from the title today, I want to talk about the latest PlayStation State of Play for September 2024. You know by now, September is the time where PlayStation loves to do their State of Play shows. Usually Nintendo also likes to do directs, but this month there wasn't one because how much more do they really have to show of the current Switch? And since the last State of Play that happened in June, Sony has been on pretty much a generational it's so over, we're so back streak. Like, really, they've been doing a lot of this. They've been giving basically the best and worst of every scenario. Recently kind of capping that off to some extent, not really, with the announcement of the PlayStation 5 Pro with an asinine price tag attached to it. But in the wake of this generational streak, we have this State of Play over here, which seemed to be pretty low stakes. Again, if it's not a PlayStation showcase, I just assume it's pretty low stakes. And given that the PlayStation State of Play shows aren't as big as the showcases, I didn't go into this one with super high expectations. And I would say the show mostly met those meager expectations, maybe just kind of slightly hopped over the bar. If anything, I feel like this one did better than the one in June, largely because at least Sony had a lot of games to show this time around. I've got my list here, and I don't want to take too long, like I said on the intro, so I'm going to jump right into the games. The first thing they showed was something I am pretty excited about, some new DLC coming to Astro Bot. It's 5 new speedrun levels, which as someone who's played Astro's Playroom a lot, several times in fact, I'm surprised that the speedrun levels weren't in Astro Bot to begin with, but it's cool that they're here, and there are going to be 10 new bots to rescue, which obviously that's a lot of the fun of playing Astro Bot to me, is rescuing all these bots. Whether they're PlayStation bots or not, however, in this trailer we did see that the bots you're going to get to rescue, among the 10, are going to include Eve from Stellar Blade and the soldier from Helldivers 2, a Helldiver I suppose. And that's great news to me, because Astro Bot is thus far my game of the year and one of my top 5 favorite games of all time, so yeah, it probably has my game of the year locked up. If anything were to surpass it, it would have to become one of my top 5 favorite games of all time, so good luck with that. So with how much I love the game, of course, I am looking forward to playing more Astro Bot, and it's nice that it's going to get some more content for free as well. Hopefully what they're releasing here isn't the only bit of it. I'd love to play more Astro Bot and get more content in the game, and I'm sure they're cooking it up right now as we speak. And this stuff is coming out this fall, so that's definitely something for me to look forward to. Moving on from there, we got to look at The Midnight Walk, a new, apparently debut game from developer Moonhood, a company founded by the creatives behind Lost in Random. I played that game actually because it came to Game Pass, but it wasn't something that I was really that into, so seeing it in this trailer wasn't like a huge selling point to me. Though the game does have an interesting claymation style aesthetic befitting the dark fantasy genre, and it is really cool from what I understand researching the game that basically everything in the game was made of clay and then 3D scanned into the game. That's pretty dope, and apparently this game can be played with the VR2. It's not VR2 mandatory, there is a flat mode, but there is VR2 functionality. So that's pretty cool. I mean, given that Sony couldn't be bothered to touch the thing, at least someone else is making something for it. And yeah, the art style looks amazing. I just really don't know what kind of game this is or whether I should be excited about it. And I probably won't know for a hot minute because it doesn't have a release date, so I guess I'm gonna have to wait until a future State of Play to learn more about this one. Color me cautiously intrigued though. From there we got to look at Hell Is Us, a new third-person action-adventure game from a small developer known as Rogue Factor. It honestly has a really cool looking blend of sci-fi and horror to it, and I'm definitely interested in learning more. Oh, wait a minute, what's that? It's a Souls-like? Alright then, y'all have at it. I'm sorry, but Souls-likes really don't do that much for me, honestly. And it's not because of the difficulty. I learned that recently when I played Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn on Game Pass. You could give me an easy mode in a Souls-like, and chances are I'm just not going to be that interested because I don't really care for that slow-paced style of combat. The only exception I've ever really made is the Star Wars Jedi games, and that's just because they don't feel as heavy, so to speak. So with this game, when I saw that slowish movement in combat, I kind of immediately checked out. Honestly, outside of the heaviness, my first thought when I looked at this trailer was Jedi Fallen Order for some reason. And I'm sorry, but also Sony usually shows about 4 or 5 of these kinds of games across their shows, so it's easy for me to become very picky-choosy with them. Like, don't get it twisted. I'm sure this game is going to come out and it's going to find an audience, be a good game, and be very high quality. It's just probably a game that I'm going to end up ignoring. When it comes to action games, give me my DMC and Bayonetta fast-paced style action games. These kind of games, not usually in my wheelhouse. But this one also doesn't have a release date, so I'm probably going to end up seeing more of it, and we are going to end up seeing more of it in future State of Play shows and things of that nature. Then we got to take another look at Metro Awakening. I think I talked about this in a video on a previous PlayStation show, I think the January one from this year. And while I don't remember exactly what I said in that video, honestly my thoughts probably aren't far off now from what they were then. As a non-fan of the Metro series, it looks like it could be pretty cool, and again, I suppose having anything to play on my VR2 would be nice given that it's kind of collecting dust in my closet. Again, in my eyes, Sony has categorically failed with the VR2, so anything they show VR2 related in any of their showcases, to me, is basically just a pre-meal snack for a dinner that's never going to happen. So a game like this looks cool, but I feel like it'll probably be one of those things I just wait to see come to PS Plus like a few months after its release and then try it out then. Especially because it's coming out November 7th, so it's probably going to get lost amidst a lot of other games coming out. Still though, it looks kind of neat. Maybe I'll try it out at some point. Then after that, we got to look at, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Arcade Chronicles. If I did pronounce that wrong, I apologize. Which is a new sequel to what is apparently an already existing game. You learn something new every day. Supposedly, it's an MMORPG from a Korean development studio known as XL Games. And not that this game looks bad or anything like that, but by this point of the show, I was honestly too busy counting how many toes I had. And thankfully, last I checked, it's still 10. Wait, hold on a second. 1, 2. Okay, yeah, still 10. Again, it's probably a very fun game, but again, Sony likes to show games that have this style of combat across a lot of its showcases, so even if you tell me this one's online focused, it's not like that changes my mind. If anything, as a non-online gamer, that only makes me less interested in it because I'm more of a single player type. But hey, if the original was good and fans are excited for this new one, then I guess that's a positive in my mind. And it's coming out sometime next year, so hopefully that's something to look forward to. Then after that, Sony announced the PlayStation 5 port of Palworld. I genuinely got worried during the stream that I was going to, for the first time, see a gaming showcase get bricked by a cease and desist in real time. Okay, sorry, I couldn't talk about Palworld without making some kind of reference to that, especially as it's going on right now. But either way, Palworld got a PS5 port, and I proceeded to stare at the screen with the blankest expression anyone could ever muster. I played Palworld when it first came out on Game Pass, and again, it's not really my kind of game. Survival multiplayer games like this just don't really do much for me. Honestly, when I heard Pokemon with guns, I was starting to think that I'd actually be able to play as the Pokemon. Quite frankly, I don't think this would have even been on my radar if not for the fact that the characters just pretty blatantly look like Pokemon. So yeah, I don't really care for this one way or the other, but I'm happy more people get to play it, I guess. That's obviously fun with a multiplayer game. And this came out on the same day as the State of Play, so you guys are probably playing it right now, and hopefully you're enjoying it. Now, the next set of games they sort of blew through, so I am going to try to do the same. The first thing that they showed in this little segment was the Lunar Remastered collection, a collection featuring remasters of 2 classic 90s JRPGs, Lunar Silver Star Story Complete, and Lunar 2 Eternal Blue Complete. I never played these games, but they seem to be games people are very happy to have back, and to that I say, cool. Also, those cutscenes, dude, those visuals are goddamn awesome. This is coming next spring. Hopefully it's something you guys are looking forward to. After that, we looked at some new content that's coming to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, the Radical Reptiles DLC featuring Mona Lisa and Mondo Gecko as playable characters, along with a free remixed retro soundtrack as well. Nothing that crazy, but supposedly this is the last DLC for the game, and no matter what, it's cool to see it get support that lasts this long. Also, having played the game myself, Shredder's Revenge is a fantastic game, and if you haven't played it yet, I highly recommend it. Both updates came out on the day of the State of Play, so hopefully you guys are playing with those now, and hopefully you're enjoying them. Then we got a short little reiteration of Sonic X Shadow Generations. They didn't linger on this super long, maybe because there was already a Sonic Central earlier in the day, but basically there's a DLC pack coming to the game centered around the upcoming film, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, that basically allows you to play as Movie Shadow, the one that's voiced by Keanu Reeves. Suddenly, the movies are now canon to the larger Sonic universe. Can't wait for Sonic's anniversary game in 2026 where you get to play as Classic Sonic, Modern Sonic, and Movie Sonic. Okay, but jokes aside, it's cool that this is here, and it's also the least surprising cross-promotion of the year. I mean, Sonic movie and Sonic video game coming out in the same span of time, do the math. And this DLC is also included if you pre-order the Digital Deluxe edition of the game, which does that stupid thing where it grants you early access to the game Woo. Either way, I'm obviously super excited for Sonic X Shadow Generations. I talked about that in a couple previous videos. I don't know if I myself will get in on this DLC in general, but nevertheless, it's cool that it's here. The game itself launches on October 25th or October 22nd if you pre-order the digital deluxe edition. God damn, that's so stupid. And the movie DLC launches December 12th, a week and a day before the movie releases, and I'm very excited for both. Definitely going to play the game, and we'll probably end up seeing Sonic 3 in theaters during its opening weekend. Perhaps even opening night, who knows. After that, we got another look at Fantasian Neo Dimension. During this part of the show, the legend himself, Hironobu Sakaguchi, came in to talk about the game, so that was pretty dope. I believe I discussed this in my video on the Nintendo Direct that happened this past June, and again, I believe that whatever I said about the game then can probably apply to how I feel about it now. It's a turn-based RPG, so it's not really my kind of thing, and it was never really going to be my kind of thing, though it's cool for what it is. And it is cool that it seems to have a feature where you can stack random encounters and do them all at once. Honestly, that just sounds really convenient. It's still not something I'll really play, but hopefully fans of the original version of Fantasian are pretty excited and down for this one. I also hope I pronounced the word Fantasian correctly. And it's coming out December 5th, so it should be a late year stocking stuffer for anyone who's really looking forward to it. Back into what they considered the bigger headlines, we then got to take another look at Dragon Age the Veilguard. Considering this trailer was mostly CGI and not gameplay until the end, it seemed fairly nondescript for a game that's supposed to be coming out about a month from now. When they did show gameplay, it seemed fairly cool, but it wasn't something that I, as a non-player of Dragon Age, was really getting head over heels for. Again, this was a game that they never were going to try to market to me because it wasn't really going to be to my interests. It's for pretty much everyone else. And I hope the game comes out and ends up being good because I know that BioWare has really needed a shot in the arm for the better part of the last decade or so. But again, just for me personally, I don't really have as much of a stake in its success. If it's great, I'm happy. If it's not, I'll put my shirt and pants on the same way tomorrow. But for those of you who are looking forward to it, it's coming out October 31st, Halloween Day. Hopefully it ends up being good for those of you that are looking forward to playing it. Moving on from there, a pretty big thing that got quite a few people hyped, and I can understand why. We got to take a look at a trailer for the Alan Wake 2 The Lake House DLC. I'm gonna be honest, I was a little sad during this trailer because I heard FBC and thought that they were gonna finally show some footage of Control 2. I know it's in development and we're getting it at some point, but I mean, that doesn't mean I don't want it. And yes, I also know that Alan Wake and Control take place in the same universe, so it was easy to see coming that this trailer would be for Alan Wake 2 DLC and would involve the FBC, but Control 2, please. Anyway, I know I mentioned before that I didn't quite love Alan Wake 2 as much as everyone else did. It wasn't like my game of the year or anything like that last year, but it was still a great game and a great experience, and I'm happy to see that it's continuing to get expanded upon now, just like how it did earlier this year with that Night Springs DLC. The trailer that they showed was also very compelling, and that jump scare at the end was really convincing too. I hate jump scares, but the one that they did here was actually quite good. I think I've said this in a past video, but I'll say it again here. I've been meaning to jump back into the game now that the New Game Plus mode is out, and not like the DLC was going to make me do that because I don't really play a lot of DLCs in games, but I'm appreciative of the State of Play for reminding me of that. And this DLC is coming out in October, which is fitting because the 1-year anniversary of the game will be in October, so hopefully it comes out around that time. That'll make it feel a little more special. Then moving on from there, we got to look at Hitman World of Assassination VR mode. As someone who doesn't follow Hitman, I didn't initially realize that this wasn't a new game. From what my research tells me, somewhere between Hitman 3's release in 2021 and, well, now, the game was rebranded as Hitman World of Assassination, possibly on account of it already having all the content from the first 2 games. Again, you guys probably know better than I do. I had also thought VR support was already in the game, and yes, I was right. But it turns out that the reason they were showing it here was just to announce that it was being brought over to the VR2. Which, honestly, that's fun. I kind of wish more VR1 games were brought over to the VR2, honestly. Like Astrobot Rescue Mission. Why wasn't that brought over to the VR2? It deserves it. Nevertheless, I'm not too into Hitman myself, so this was never really going to be for me. But again, it's very cool to see this make its way onto the VR2. And again, Sony couldn't be bothered to do shit with the VR2, so at least someone's keeping busy with it. And this release is coming out in December, so again, something fun to look forward to in the later part of the year. But after that, we got into one of the bigger parts of the show, and an announcement that got quite a few people excited, and rightfully so. We got to see the announcement of Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1+2 Remastered. Now, this was accidentally revealed on the PlayStation Store just hours before the show. I found out about that through an IGN article, but a part of me still couldn't believe my eyes or ears when I heard any kind of rumors about this. It's been over 2 decades since the Legacy of Kain franchise got a new game, and though a few projects have been in development, all of them have ended up being cancelled. Furthermore, the franchise's more iconic games have not gotten re-released, so the franchise was kind of left in the dust for a while, only really coming back in a few references in the last few Astro games. And I heard a lot of people talk about this series, but I wasn't sure if it was ever going to return, but now it is. It's making a triumphant return with remasters of the 2 Soul Reaver games, which it's my understanding that these are the 2 most iconic ones. Also, I'll reiterate this later, but later on in the state of play, it was shown that the original game, Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, would be coming to PlayStation Plus, and it would get a PlayStation Classics release on the PS4 and 5. So that means Legacy of Kain fans are going to be eating real good real soon, which is obviously great. I love when these franchises return from the dead. Even if it's not a franchise I know or care about, it's always fun to see these franchises come back guns blazing. I'll admit I've never gotten to play these games, but looking at the gameplay in the state of play, I want to. I like games like this. They look fun. And these 2 look very fun, and again, I've heard great things, and I'm glad there's now going to be a remaster and that I'll finally get to experience this franchise that I've heard about for so long. It's coming out December 10th, so hopefully that'll be right after the heavy wave of games, and it'll be a cool late-year game to look forward to. Then we had another set of games that they blew through, so I'm going to try to do the same. The first of them being Fear the Spotlight. This was revealed earlier this year at the Summer Game Fest show, but it's the debut horror game from developer Cozy Game Pals and publisher Blumhouse Games. Yes, that Blumhouse. They barely showed anything, so it was hard to get excited, but I am at least somewhat interested, especially because of the polygon-based aesthetic akin to that of a PS1 game. I still need to see more, but it's coming out October 22nd, so that should be a fun, festive, spooky season game for Halloween. Then we got another look at Towers of Agaspa. I talked about this in my video on the PlayStation Showcase last year and also gloriously mispronounced its name. Come on, don't look at me like that. It's a hard word. They pronounced it 2 different ways during this show. I don't even know. Agaspa, Agaspa, I don't know. Looking back, I don't know why this is funny, but in that video I did on last year's PlayStation show, I mentioned that the only thing I remembered of this game was a paraglider. Wow, way to go, Past Matt. You're just really detail-oriented. But as it is, this is like an open-world adventure game with some kind of building management type elements to it as well. It seems pretty chill, but these games are a bit out of my wheelhouse, so I doubt this will be something that I play, but it's coming out this November, so if it's more in your element, that's something to look forward to in a few months. And then they took a little bit to talk about Lego Fortnite. Essentially, it's just the addition of a split-screen mode that allows players to play the game locally. I know I could spend this part making fun of Fortnite, but honestly, I don't really have much disdain toward the game. I played a tiny bit of it specifically since the addition of the new modes that they've added to it, and it has its place, and it has to be doing something right if it's still this popular this many years later. The addition of split-screen in Lego Fortnite is also fun, and I think it makes sense for something like this, especially in comparison to the base game, and it is nice that at least one part of Fortnite is going to have some local multiplayer. Now please, add an offline mode to Fortnite Festival. And maybe bring split screen to that mode and to Rocket Racing. That would be fun. This update's coming out this October, and they also showed that some Fortnite limited edition DualSense controller is coming later this year. Sure, yeah, that's cute. And then back onto the heavy hitters, we got to take another look at Dynasty Warriors Origins. I can't lie, I don't play Dynasty Warriors at all. My only real experience with it was Hyrule Warriors, but Origins is actually looking really good. I was pretty impressed by it when I saw it at the last State of Play, and it still looks really good here. Fast pace, badass combat, that 1v1000 action that's made this series so appealing in a lot of its past entries, I think. Has it always been 1v1000? Altogether, looking at what they showed of the game, this is looking like it's going to be a damn polished and damn fun action game. And while I've never really been in on the series before, I'm starting to feel like I'm going to be in on this one. It's coming out January 17th, which is going to be around a couple other games I'm interested in, but I'm definitely going to try to find some time for this one because it looks great. Then we got to take a look at Monster Hunter Wilds because yes, after showing 3 or 4 games earlier with slow-paced combat styles reminiscent of Monster Hunter, let's now take a look at the actual Monster Hunter. Okay, I'm joking, but still, look, I know that this is going to be a good game. The Monster Hunter franchise is generally consistent, very polished, and high quality, and I have no doubt in my mind this is also going to be a high quality game. On a personal level though, I have tried many times to get into Monster Hunter, and no matter how many different ways they throw it at me, I just can't. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is that slow-paced style of combat. Maybe it's the fact that, as many people say, it takes 100 hours for the game to get good, and that's the first 100 hours that it takes for it to get good. But it's just not my thing, and I've been seeing this game at several gaming showcases over the last almost year since it debuted at the Game Awards. At this point, I'm just convinced the series will never be for me, so when it comes around, I just nod, tip my proverbial cap, and let everyone else eat it up. Again, looking at the gameplay, I'm sure it's going to be great. It's just not for me. But I'm happy for everyone else who's looking forward to it. And it's coming out February 28th, and obviously there's some pre-order bonuses for armor sets, talismans, a mini art book, and there's some save data bonuses if you've played the other games in the series, so yeah, that's cute. And speaking of cute, we then got to take another look at LEGO Horizon Adventures. Last time I talked about this game in my Nintendo Direct video, I talked about how even as a straight-edge individual, looking at this game made me feel like I was on a drug trip, and I promise I'm not going to do that again. Instead, I'll say that yes, the game does look good. It's a very wacky, different direction for Horizon and Sony as a whole, honestly, and I'm obviously surprised by its existence, period. But then again, if any major Sony franchise that they actually use today and don't ignore and just leave to die can actually appeal to more than just a mature audience, it's probably Horizon. I mean, yeah, it's actiony, but relative to games like God of War and The Last of Us, I feel like Horizon is a game that I'd feel a little more comfortable playing if, say, like a younger cousin was in the room or something like that. So I guess I can kind of understand it, and the trailer does a nice job bringing some good humor to the franchise. Obviously, as a LEGO game, you expect it to be a little wackier, and I think it's sticking the landing in that regard. It looks fun to play, and I love that there are costumes in the game of other PlayStation characters like Sackboy, Ratchet, and Rivet. This is a game I'm genuinely really looking forward to playing, and that's shocking because I still can't believe it's a thing. It's coming out November 14th, and hopefully it doesn't get lost amidst some other games that I'm looking forward to this November. But then, we got the announcement that I was absolutely dreading before the show even happened, because I knew exactly where we were going, and I can't believe this is actually a thing, though I'm not actually as negative on it as I thought I'd be for one particular reason. We got a look at Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. This had been leaking for like a year or two prior to this showcase, and throughout the whole entire saga, I was praying that it wasn't real. Because look, I love the Horizon games. Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West are both among some of my favorite games, so I do love me some Horizon. But why the hell does Horizon Zero Dawn need to be remastered? I mean, I'm going into a personal anecdote here, but a couple years ago when Forbidden West first came out and I played the game, the opening cutscene for the game was basically like a clip show of the events from Horizon Zero Dawn. And honestly, when I was watching it, I didn't think I was looking at the older game. I thought I was looking at graphics for Forbidden West. That's how good Zero Dawn still looked even after Forbidden West came along. I mean, yeah, I know the facial capture stuff, all that, whatever, but even still, visually, I couldn't see why it needed a remaster. I couldn't see why it needed a remaster, period, because you can already play Horizon Zero Dawn on your PS5, and it's upgraded already on the PS5. How much more could really be upgraded? I really think someone needs to go and proverbially smack Sony upside the head. Don't actually do it. I can't be responsible for you guys catching assault charges, and I'm not encouraging assault in any way. But I think someone needs to proverbially smack Sony upside the head and show them games that actually deserve to be remade and remastered, because right now, I don't understand their philosophy for remakes and remasters one bit. And now there's a rumor that Days Gone is getting a remaster. What are we even doing? Sooner or later, we're gonna get Spider-Man 3 remastered, and Spider-Man 3 is not even out yet. So, this is a mess. It doesn't make any sense. So why am I less negative on it than I thought I'd be? Simply because I was worried this was going to be a Last of Us Part 1 situation where it was an entirely new SKU that you'd have to pay $70 for, but apparently, there is an upgrade path. If you own the PS4 version, you can upgrade to the PS5 for $10, which I suppose, again, is better than having to pay $70 for Last of Us Part 1, or having to pay $30 to upgrade Ghost of Tsushima to the director's cut. So I guess a $10 upgrade is much more doable. Your move, Until Dawn remake. Still wildly unnecessary, but I guess this is the best possible outcome that it could have been. Although, it's coming out October 31st, which is the same day as Dragon Age the Veilguard, so yes, even with a re-release, Horizon can never have a day to itself. The meme rages on. But speaking of rage, I've done enough raging about Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. Let's move on to the next thing, because we're getting close to the end of the show. After Horizon, we then got to look at some new content coming to Stellar Blade. Basically, there's a photo mode coming to the game, which I'm very sure everyone is going to be on their best behavior with, and no one is going to use it for inappropriate or scandalous purposes. Oh, who am I kidding? I should have learned my lesson when they added a photo mode to Bayonetta 3. They're also releasing the original soundtrack on streaming services, or rather they released it on the day of the event, so that's fun, I suppose. Most importantly, though, there's also a collaboration of some kind with Nier Automata. Automata? How the hell do you say that word? I've heard it said so many different ways, I just don't know at this point. But either way, yes, there's a Nier collaboration coming to Stellar Blade sometime later this year, which is pretty dope. I still haven't gotten to play Stellar Blade yet, not for any real rhyme or reason, I just haven't gotten around to it. And I'm not going to say specifically that the Nier collab is the reason I want to, but I'm glad that this show, at multiple turns, reminded me that I still need to play the game, because it did look very good and I did enjoy the demo, and I've heard very good things about the game as a whole, so I definitely got to try it out. Either way, some new stuff coming later this year. Good to see that's still getting support. Couple smaller things from here, but we got to look at some stuff coming to PlayStation Plus, plenty of stuff actually, and stuff I'm actually looking forward to. The monthly games for October are WWE 2K24, okay, fine. Dead Space Remake, fantastic game, definitely give it a try if you haven't already. And Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, which I have never played, but I've heard so much about, and I've seen so much of it that I honestly just have to play it when it comes to PS Plus. That's coming October 1st, and I'm genuinely really looking forward to it. As I mentioned, Blood Omen Legacy of Kain is coming as a classic later this year, but also Dino Crisis is coming as a classic later this year, so that's pretty cool. I'll have to fight with tank controls, which I absolutely hate, but I'll be excited to finally play Dino Crisis for the first time. And on the 26th, a couple days ago, to celebrate Last of Us Day, they added The Last of Us Part 1 to PS Plus. Given that there was no chance in fucking hell I'd spend $70 on an unnecessary remake such as that, I'm excited to actually see how good it really is. I have it downloaded on my PlayStation, and I'll probably start it later tonight at some point. But yeah, overall, some really good stuff. I love having Xbox Game Pass, but damn, especially now that PS2 and PSP games are starting to be added to the service, PlayStation Plus might honestly be a better deal even without the day one first-party titles like Xbox. Now they just need to find a way to natively emulate PS3 games, and PS Plus will be goddamn unstoppable. Then they got into the PlayStation 5 Chroma collection, some new console cover colors and DualSense controllers, Indigo, Pearl, and Teal. Pre-orders for it begin October 3rd, the Pearl and Indigo launch November 7th, the Teal launches January 23rd. I never really care when they announce stuff like this at the showcases, but it looks pretty. Next thing. Actually, maybe not the next thing, because after the Chroma collection, they talked a little more about the PlayStation 5 Pro. In their never-ending effort to remaster everything that doesn't need to be remastered, PlayStation even remastered their PlayStation 5 Pro announcement, even going as far as to bring Mark Cerny back out again to remind everyone that the PS5 Pro showcase happened. Then they went into a sizzle reel of games that are going to be PS5 Pro enhanced, and honestly, I'm not even going to try to read them all off. It's basically all the big ones you'd expect to see. There was no need for this at the show. It just broke the pace, and all of these games that they showed could have been shown at the actual reveal event. Also, as much as I love the game, it's one of my favorites of this year, why did they flash Final Fantasy VII Rebirth like 7 times during the sizzle reel? We get it, it's being enhanced, just move on. Either way, the PS5 Pro is coming November 7th at the hot low price of $700, plus $80 for a disc drive since it doesn't come with one, plus $30 for the vertical stand since it doesn't come with one, plus $75 for a second controller because you can't have just one, plus $70 to even buy one game for the thing, because as good as Astro's Playroom is, one pre-installed 2-hour game just isn't enough. Plus $100 for the headset because 3D audio is actually pretty cool. Plus $30 for the charging station for the controllers. Should I keep going? Sorry, I just had to make a joke about how insane the PS5 Pro's price is. But then they actually ended the show with something very good, something that a lot of people were excited about, and myself included. We got to take a look at Ghost of Yōtei. Now, I had been hearing some reports here and there that a Ghost of Tsushima sequel was coming, and honestly, I think anyone could have predicted that. I mean, Ghost of Tsushima has pretty much become Sucker Punch's most successful game, and the Sly Cooper fan in me is really punching the air right now. But no, seriously, it sold 13 million copies and has been a massive success for Sucker Punch and Sony, so you had to know a sequel was probably going to be put in development fairly quickly. I knew it was going to happen, and given that it's been about 4 years since Ghost of Tsushima, it makes sense. But given Sony's incredible ability to inflate their game budgets and make games with development cycles lasting the better part of a millennium, I thought we were going to have to wait until like 2028 for this game. As it turns out, nope. Here we are. But yes, Ghost of Yōtei is the full sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, though this time it is not Jin Sakai we will be following. This game will be centered around a female samurai named Atsu, and as the title suggests, will take place around Mount Yōtei over 3 centuries after the events of the first game. I have mentioned many times before that Ghost of Tsushima was not a game I loved quite as much as everyone else did. Again, it wasn't my game of the year like everyone else, but I did really enjoy the game. I do think it's a great game, and obviously I was always going to be interested in the prospect of a sequel. And while it may be sad that we're not going to be following Jin again, Atsu's probably going to be a total badass. Though the harassment that their actress is getting online for simply existing is really fucking not cool. Why are people the way that they are? I just don't get it. But either way, Atsu's going to be a badass, and it was cool to even get some very light bits of gameplay here too. For some reason, I didn't think we'd have some so soon. And I mean, I know, the gameplay is exactly what you expect it to be. It's a Sony first-party game. You know their formula at this point. But I'm sure it's going to have some good refinements to the first game, and I hope it improves on the open world, because in the first game, I didn't find the open world to be that interesting, personally. Either way, the first game was great, and this one's definitely going to be on my radar. I'm excited to see how it differentiates from the first one. And it's actually coming out next year, so that's pretty crazy. Again, I thought we weren't going to get it for a couple years, but it's coming out next year. Nice to see we'll get a pretty noteworthy first-party Sony game in 2025, and like I said, I'm looking forward to playing it myself. So overall, yeah, this state of play, it was fine. A decent few games, a good amount of them, but only a few that really left a huge impression on me. Again, this was a fairly standard state of play, not as bad as the last one was, but ultimately mostly unexciting. Again, we didn't get to see a ton on the first party front, and I understand why. It's a state of play, not a PlayStation showcase, so it's a little more low stakes, but I'm still definitely worried about Sony's first party output going forward. Sony has wanted to step into the live service world, but if Concord doesn't immediately raise the red flag and make them rethink that, they honestly might be lunatics. Meanwhile, the typical over-the-shoulder, third-person, story-driven cinematic action games that we get from them are still great and all, but it feels like that model may not be sustainable in the future, given how long these games are taking and how much money they're costing to make. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again, I'm personally starting to feel a bit iffy towards Sony's less is more first-party approach, where they drop so few first-party games in a given year, but they just happen to be of higher quality. And I really hope the recent success of Astro teaches them the benefits of taking things a bit smaller instead of just trying to make more of the AAA games they're currently focusing on. I mean, for all I know, maybe those AA games are being developed as we speak, and I shouldn't be expecting to see them so soon after Astrobot, but I just emphasize that because I don't want Sony to drop a game like Astrobot as a one-off and not realize the benefits it can have for them, especially as someone who just really enjoys seeing what first-party publishers bring to the tables with their exclusive lineups, and as someone who focuses a lot on that. I'm walking away from another PlayStation show unclear whether I should be excited about the future of first-party PlayStation titles or whether I should be mashing the panic button with great force. Either way, first-party or not, there were some solid games here, but just not a whole lot that was crazy to me. I wasn't underwhelmed, I wasn't overwhelmed, I was just kinda whelmed. Fine showcase, better than the last one. Not one of the best ones I've seen from them. If I had to give it a grade, I'd probably just give it like a flat C. Nothing terrible, nothing amazing. It was fine while it was on. It didn't make me angry. It didn't have me jumping up and down. Very standard state of play. But that's just my opinion on the state of play. What did you guys think about it? Did you love it more than I did? Did you hate it way more than I did? Were you just completely indifferent toward it? What are the games that you're most excited for from the show? What are the ones that you're least excited for? Whatever your thoughts and opinions are, leave them down in the comments below. Let's keep this civil and have some fun as we like to do. If you guys want to hit like and subscribe and support some of my other ventures that I have linked in the description, thank you. If not, it's no big deal. I totally understand. And as soon as I finish recording this, I will start recording the next video in the favorite games of a given year series, which is 2015. Given that I've already been recording this video for 50 minutes, I hope that the next one isn't going to be more stressful than that. Either way, stay tuned for that, but until then, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.